Babe, have you been noticing how the same lessons just keep showing up? Different people, same story. It's not bad luck, it's your shadow. And if you want to learn more about how to have your shadow work with you instead of against you, you're in luck. That is why I created Shadow Work Decoded, a 5-day guided journey to help you uncover the hidden patterns holding you back in love, work, and self-worth, and finally transform them from the inside out. Each day, you'll get short audios from me, journal prompts, and rituals that make deep healing easy and accessible. And dare I say, fun? Go to cosmicrx.com/shadow work or tap the link in the show notes to start today. Because once you decode your shadow, you unlock your true magnificent manifesting power. If astrology isn't real, then somebody explain to me why Aquarius moons are having like the best week ever and why a certain young man named Zohran Mamdani happened to win the New York City mayoral election against all odds while a blessed big ass super full moon in Taurus crossed his midheaven, his 10th house of public image, legacy, career, purpose. Let's go. Let's get into all of it. If you're new here, welcome. This is a mini-sode spin-off of our Cosmic RX Radio Energy Report. And you can just consider this where we like to talk shit in the cosmic lens about everything in the biggest headlines of what happened in the week ahead of us, politics, pop culture, all through the planetary lens, and maybe, just maybe, also use it to make a little sense of it, to understand your purpose a little bit deeper, or just give some cosmic context, the WTF of it all, because good Lord, every week the head is spinning. So this week we got to break down that blue wave. I think we all felt a little something we haven't felt in a while, which is a little hope scrolling while being on, this here internet. Election night here in the US showed that we, the people, are not happy with this administration. People showed up in record turnout numbers to vote. Let's just call it azul, azul, azul. People were voting blue, and everywhere from California, Prop 50, really traditionally, in Republican counties like Orange County, showing up to vote for Prop 50. We saw the race in Virginia, New Jersey, some really unprecedented times. But I feel like the archetypal energy, the energy that kind of brought together a little bit of this, whatever we want to call it, bloom scrolling, hope core, national Lexapro vibes, was the win right here in my home city of New York City for Zohran Mamdani. I could say so much about this. I am a born and raised New Yorker. I would say, at least 3 generations deep in New York City, but probably deeper than that if I did some digging. And I really wanted to just shout out, like, I'm a working class girly. My dad's a taxi driver here. My mom waited tables. My grandmother started cleaning houses when my grandfather, who was a plumber, got hit by a drunk driver and lost the use of both of his legs. And my paternal grandfather worked in Fulton Fish Market. If anybody knows, that is, it's pretty as gritty as it gets, but one of those things that keeps the city running. So even though I am a white blonde lady, I always am a champion of, right, like the underdog, the working class person, the people who either do the unseen labor that make our country, but especially a city like New York, run. Both my parents were bohemian artist types. My dad was a painter. My mom was a writer. So I'm always a big fan of the artists, the people who create, the people who want to add more color and beauty and healing and magic into the world. And I fucking love immigrants and the people who bring their cultures here, because I'm sorry, like, I don't want to live in a city, in a country, in a world that feels like seasoned boiled chicken. So that's on that. And, consider me controversial, but I believe that kids should feel safe when they go to school. People should be able to eat, and everyone should be able to afford like housing and have access to clean air and water. Whoa, hot takes, I know. But leading up to this Zohran Mamdani campaign and some other blue wave moments, people were making it seem like these were radical thoughts, right? And what's so cool in watching New York City, this is the epicenter of finance, this is epicenter of Wall Street, but innovation. And so for this to happen here is really significant. And I'm going to go over a little bit of Zohran Mamdani's chart. Mamdani, the name is Mamdani, Mamdani. And I did an episode on his chart back when he won the primary over Andrew Cuomo in June, which was a really cool moment. But I wanted to call out again a few things in his chart because, as always, I think it's cool, but it also can help teach us, right? If you have something in your chart like this, then you have that in, access to you. And this is the kind of archetypal energy that's being supported right now because Pluto in Aquarius keeps saying evolve or die, right? Like we're not going back, evolve or die, bitches. And Pluto in Aquarius is truly that quote of like, we're only getting weirder and witchier and browner and queerer. And like, if you're holding on for dear life to the old way, you're about to get your whole world ripped open. You're not going to like it. I've been saying this since like 2018, 2019, 2020. I was starting to be like, okay, I think what I'm saying, when I'm seeing the astrology, I'm seeing it play out. And now here we are in 2025. 2025 and 2026 are some of the most pivotal years in, I would say, American modern history, definitely of the decade. And lucky us, we get to live through it. So, the Aquarius, the Pluto and the Aquarius energy, we really felt it this week. I mentioned at the top of the show, Aquarius moon's having a good week. And I mentioned that because Mamdani is an Aquarius moon. So if astrology isn't real, then why, right, have this Aquarius moon? And moon represents the people, mundane astrology. So to represent the people in the sign of representation of the people, in my book, I talk about Aquarius is key 11, the future is ours, is so cool. And Pluto in Aquarius is showing us that Aquarians, people who embody the Aquarius archetype, wherever you have it in your chart, right, you can still access it. But especially if it's your moon, it's hardwired into you. And to live in the high consciousness of Aquarius energy is so, I think, the medicine of the times, the magic of the times. I think people who are embodying that are going to have doors open and experience things that are beyond their wildest dreams. And I have to say, we've had a lot of the shitty sides, pardon my français, the shitty energy of Pluto and Aquarius. We've seen, the technocrats. Pluto is very connected to fascism in general. Aquarius is, technology, AI, oligarchs, the techno broligarchs, shadow AI surveillance, all this stuff, all this, tech apocalypse things can be filed under Pluto and Aquarius. But Pluto in Aquarius is also we the people, and it's the French Revolution and the Haitian Revolution and the Protestant Reformation, and essentially the redistributing of power of wealth from the few to the many. Now we don't get there. They're just sitting back and, watching Netflix and buffing our nails and eating bonbons, unfortunately. But this week we got to see, I think, two really cool examples in Aquarius moons. I'm going to get into Mamdani's chart in a minute, but I do want to shout out Billie Eilish. Before all of that, I love highlighting a revolutionary artist because I love working with people who are visionaries, who are entrepreneurs, who are change makers, but especially people who are artists, because whether it's music or the stories that we are reading and the stories that are being told to us on screen, this is what shifts, right? Our culture. We get to cast new spells into the culture when we do this. And I watch certain artists who have a lot of power, a lot of privilege, and don't really use their platform in any significant way. And right now, let me tell you, Pluto in Aquarius is not going to like that. Pluto in Aquarius, don't play it like that. Pluto in Aquarius is like, honey, I'm not Leo. I'm the opposite of that, right? I do not give a fuck about your fame, your fortune, your name, and we're already seeing it, right? Like we're really experiencing the deconstructing, the dismantling, the de-influencing of celebrity culture. Pluto in Aquarius is kind of like everyone can have access to that. It's also part of the internet and part of technology, but it's also quite literally like when you go against the astrological grain, is just like swimming upstream or like trying to throw a wiffle ball into a breeze or a tornado. It's just is not going to go where you think it's going to go or how you want it to go, right? So when I watch these certain celebrities, I don't want to name names, over the past 2 years, just get it so wrong. I'm like, honey, I know you don't have an astrologer. Tell me you don't have an astrologer without telling me you don't have an astrologer. Now, Billie Eilish either has an astrologer or is just naturally clued in and tuned in. And it might be both or all of the above because she has an Aquarius moon. And again, Aquarius moons, when they're in that high consciousness, that really empowered version of that, they naturally want to care about people and they naturally want to be progressive and they naturally are going to give a big middle finger to the institutions, to the status quo. And she's a Sag sun, and Sages, they also love freedom in a different way. Like Sag and Aquarius are two of the signs that are most hardwired to want freedom. And Sagittarius is a truth teller, sometimes almost to a fault. And she's an Aries ascendant. And the Aries archetype in my book, in my literal book, and in my metaphorical book is the bad bitch. So we got a bad bitch rising, we got a truth teller sun, and then we got like a witchy progressive weirdo moon. So of course, Billie Eilish showed up this week in the news. I'm just going to read from the story because I want to make sure I get all the details right, with a huge ass donation that she made. And not only did she donate, I think it was $11.5 million to charity, but she has a good amount of money. I think her net worth is like, I should have pulled this up. It's like $50 million or something I read. So it's not shabby, but her giving this away, what I read was that she gave away 1/5 of her net worth. So yeah, she's worth $53 million and she gave away 11 of it because she's probably like, why the fuck do I need $53 million of wealth? And if that wasn't badass enough, what else did my Aries rising, Sag, Sun, Aquarius, Moon do? She literally said, like, if you're a billionaire in here, like, why? We're in a time right now where the world is really, really bad and really dark, and people need empathy and help more than kind of ever, especially in our country, she said. And she goes, no hate, but give your money away, shorties. Like, if you have money, it'd be great to use it for good things. Maybe give it to people in need. So cash, so whatever. Who's in the audience? She's literally talking directly to Mark Zuckerberg, his wife, Priscilla, and George Lucas is in the audience. I'm like, that is so fucking badass. Like, do you know how badass that is to not only do that in general, to be kind of nonchalant about it? Like, of course I'm going to do this. I'm not a fucking weirdo. I'm not a sweaty hoarder, because that's what a lot of billionaires, like, to me, feel like. It's going to be, I swear to God, in like the next generation, or I hope sooner rather than later, we're going to be studying, or our kids' are going to be studying in like psychology books, in books about like truly like pathological disorders, isn't it billionaires? Because it makes no sense. Like, when people break down the number billion, you cannot begin to comprehend or fathom the number. And this is what I love about like the Billie Eilish. It's like, we're not saying that, when people say about like billionaires, eat the rich, no one should be a billionaire. We're not saying like, don't be abundant. I love abundance work. It's what I work on with my clients. I'm like, no, I want everyone to have financial freedom, sovereignty. If you want to get a nice thing, if a nice car is important to you, living in a nice house is important to you. If you want to, like, I'm great, work hard, amazing. But the amount of money that is hoarded by the very, very few, and then it just keeps like exponentially going up day to day, it's crazy. So this is $11.5 million. And she went up there and she said that. And I just thought that was so cool. And that was the way we started this week. Okay. And then flash forward to the eve of the Taurus full moon, Taurus supermoon, Mars in Sag, opposite Uranus and Gemini. Mars is opposite Uranus is big change, is revolution, right? And we know Uranus it was in the last few days of Gemini, right? About to retrograde into Taurus. There was a Venus in Libra, square Jupiter in Cancer. And I love this because New York City is a Capricorn. So New York City's chart was being very activated by this transit, this, Venus, Jupiter coming together. I think this is what I have for New York City. Capricorn Sun, Aries Moon, Mercury in Cap retrograde, Venus in Sag, Mars in Sag, like me, Jupiter in Libra, Saturn Sag, Uranus Sag, Neptune Gemini, Pluto Gemini, and a rising in Libra and a Cancer midheaven. So thinking about the astrology of the city, right? We have a lot of cardinal energy, a lot of Sag energy. So we have Mars and Sag, Mars returned from New York City, opposite Gemini. And then we have this Venus in Libra squaring Jupiter in Cancer, really activating all those cardinal energies you just heard in the chart. So we knew something was big. This is like an auspicious moment. This is a pivotal moment. And all of that cardinal sign in New York City's birth chart really makes New York City a leader for the world. We know, right? If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Well, I'm going to take that and one up that with if you do something here, if you broadcast a message here, if you do something here, it can reach anywhere. If you create it here, it can reach anywhere. And I learned this even when I had my business here. I had a lot of really interesting spiritual and spiritually adjacent people come in my shop in Brooklyn. And I remember someone telling me that you go to the West Coast to like receive downloads and tune in, and you go to the East Coast, you go to New York specifically, they're talking about New York and LA, you go to New York to like reach the world. And New York is built on a grid of clear quartz, and the whole bedrock of New York City is built on kind of like a power grid. And that's why everything is so amplified here. Of course, it's surrounded by water, so that only amplifies it, but it made it really conducive for trade, back in the day with the Dutch and all of that. But New York City is very fascinating. And to me, it's a very special place. New York City is an oracle to me. New York City, having lived through 9/11 here as a teenager living on Long Island, living through blackouts and Hurricane Sandys and economic collapses. And I was here the night Obama won. I was in my friend's apartment a few blocks from Times Square. We freaked the F out and we ran to Times Square crying, hugging, ticker tape, like confetti in the streets. One of the most heart-opening, explosive nights of my life. That is what this week felt like, right? And we've been through so many things as a city. And, just a week ago, a block from my apartment or 2 blocks from my apartment, we saw the really violent, unnecessary ICE raids on Canal Street. And we saw I always get emotional. We saw how the fuck New Yorkers show up. And I think there was something really cool for the world I would hope to see in that moment of no, we don't back down. We've learned from our neighbors in Chicago and LA and Portland, but there is a fucking tenacity. I mean, look at that chart, right? All Cap, all Aries, all Sag in New York. And that polka dot lady dress, especially, was the woman in the polka dot dress was such a symbol, right? For I might be in my, what I now learned is a comme de garçon, gorgeous dress, working my corporate ass job. But I always have time. I always have time to stand 10 toes down on business in my ballet sensible work flats and my laptop purse and buck up some ice tank. You have a tank? I don't care. I'm a New Yorker. And there's been I've always loved this city, but something about this month, this season, I've just been really, really ridiculously proud and really hope that this is the beginning of the other wave of Pluto and Aquarius, this other invitation. And New York is a Capricorn, so we've gone through a lot, especially since 2008. A lot of those things I just mentioned, right? We were coming off of 9/11. We were coming off of, we went right into the economic collapse, that stage. And I think that we're geared up and ready to be part of this Pluto and Aquarius moment. And now we have, the youngest mayor, first Muslim mayor, first mayor who did not take money from billionaires, from APAC. And it really is a man who is for the people. And I never will ever put a politician on a pedestal, but I do have to say that Zohran Mamdani, his campaign, who he is, people I know who have met him and worked with him, through and through, he feels like he is just really well adjusted, raised really well. That's one of the first things, especially as a mom raising sons. I'm you just feel really well adjusted in the world. And his whole campaign and his whole aura feels built on curiosity and play and excitement and really like this genuine urge to connect to people and really want to help people. And he's charming, like he's that Obama charm, but he doesn't have that entirely like polished up career politician vibe, which I love. And he was out in the streets, like he was hanging out with the bodega cats. He's at Tai Chi. He is like on the subway. He's at Jerk Club, another club. He is like doing the damn thing. And I also thought that was cool just to see him like be out and about. So let's get into his chart. Let's see what we can learn from this moment in time and really like what we can learn about this moment of like the anti-establishment. Okay. So first of all, I have to just, people on the internet, I love them. Everyone is just such little detectives. So before we get into his chart, a lot of people on threads were talking about how Zohran Mamdani is the 111th mayor. So 111, we love that. Alignment, new energy, right? Elected in the 11th month under a full moon. He's going to be sworn in on 1/1, and that New York is the 11th state. I'm like, somebody fact check me in the comments if this is not right. I thought that was cool. And of course, he's a Libra, which is literally the justice card in the tarot, which is card 11. And this is when we just get to look at patterns and things, right? We get to look at messages. This is what I love about this work of, looking at the synchronicity and signs and symbols behind things. It's all a lesson. It's all a message. And we're in a 9-year, which is endings, closings, right? So again, I already did a big deep dive on Zohran Mamdani's chart. So I just want to say, let's see, what are the highlights here? So we said Libra, Sun, and a Leo rising, which also explains why he was in your club. But truly that thing of like the Leo rising, having fun, putting himself out there, joyful, curiosity, wonder, and really like his sun is in the third house of local communities. I always think of the third house as your local coffee shop, your local like bookstore, that place where you go and you know the person's name, right? And like I think about that as my local coffee cart guy, Mustafa, and the bodega I like to go to. And he decided to not accept funds from big donors. So he literally just knocked on like a million doors, right? And really centered his campaign on relational organizing. And something about the Leo rising, like the campaign just felt fun and the Libra, it felt aesthetic. And it was just a master class, I think, in really getting to bring a different energy into politics. So yes, so the Libra of it all, the aesthetics, the joy, the being like that Leo gregarious energy, but while still being, right, the Aquarius moon, like man of the people. I love the Leo Aquarius balance people right now. I'm loving watching a lot of my clients who have like a North Node in Leo, North Node Aquarius, South Node in reverse, really walking this line of letting your personality shine, letting your authentic spirit come through, but while doing it like for a bigger cause, right? Like it's less celebrity culture, more like I'm going to celebrate myself so everyone has room to shine. Everyone has room on stage or at the table. Hi. So then moving on, I mean, obviously we just know the Leo rising and the social media of it all, which is so literal. And he's a Scorpio stellium in his 4th house. And then what it really stood out to me was Mercury and Mars. Pluto means, millennial like myself. But, he's like playful, he's jovial. But when someone has Mercury, Mars in Scorpio, it is like a razor sharp, is this true like scorpion stinger coming out, especially when put up against the wall. And I think watching Zohran in these debates, specifically, when he had the one question for Cuomo at the end of the most recent one, right? When he said, he's like, I'm going to ask you the question that everyone's thinking. And he asked about, the women who accused him of sexual assault. Like, why did he try to subpoena their private medical records, knowing that all those women had been under NDAs or were being sued, so they couldn't speak up for themselves. And I was like, oh, that was such a good Mercury and Mars and Scorpio move. Definitely let me know for time's sake. I'm not going to go into every single moment that I see reflected in his chart, like how I saw it play out. But I think it'd be a cool invitation for you to let me know, right? Like what were some moments that brought this to mind for you? And also like the Scorpio stellium, for anyone who has that, you take on power, right? You like to go into the places, fearlessly, and also to like go in and really transform and bring transformation there. But also if you have a Scorpio stellium like that, like this man, I looked up because I remember starting to see his name around the city, and I was like, wow, it just doesn't really feel like it's been going on for that long. And sure enough, it was literally a year ago. He basically started campaigning right after the presidential election. Actually insane. And then just has this like Venus in Virgo, Jupiter in Virgo. Virgo is like, we're nerds. We love details. We love doing things the right way. But Virgo really wants to be of service. And there's something about Virgo energy that really is that natural servant based leader. The leader who's like, no, I really want to fix things. I really want to help people. It's not an act. And I think also like Venus is the planet of finances. Jupiter is very generous. And I think that these planets in Virgo, him wanting to bring economic reform to the city and hopefully set the stage on a larger scale, just kind of makes sense there, right? And there's just a lot of other interesting things in his astrology. I saw, the day that he won the Democratic primary was on the Day of Miracles, which is like when the Sun and Jupiter come together, and it was in the sign of Cancer this year. And then Jupiter in Cancer was very present. Astro Max, who's on Threads, and I just started following them on Patreon. They talked about casting the chart for the moment that the election results were called, and Jupiter was crossing the ascendant. The Cancer rising was the chart, which they do a really beautiful breakdown. You should go check out their Patreon posts. But it talked about like a leader coming who is going to feed. Sorry, speaking of Jupiter and Cancer, my childcare had to go take her daughter to the doctor today. So thank you for rolling with this. But I'm just going to read what Astromax said about Jupiter, being in Cancer and this indication in the chart rising above the ascendant. It says it indicated from Abu Mashar, an astrologer from the 9th century, said this historically was connected to the rise of righteous against kings and the emergence of a powerful and commanding ruler, and that the righteous will rise in rank. So I'm like, ooh, I love that. And of course, Jupiter in Cancer advocates for children, women, families. And it feels exciting, right? It feels that Mars-Uranus opposition. This is like a democratic socialist, yes, Leo rising, a rapper, assemblyman, son of academics, artists, who is now like the New York City mayor, the mayor of the biggest city in the world. And I took a screenshot of his acceptance speech, was phenomenal. And, he talked about being New York City will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. And he called out Islamophobia, and he called out anti-Semitism. And I just thought he did a beautiful job. And my favorite part, and I think this is that Mercury, Mars, and Scorpio, he said 4 words for you, Donald Trump, because I know you're watching. Like, what was it? Turn up the volume? I don't even know. But it was so fucking good. It gave me chills. And I was like, this is the leader that we need and the archetype of a leader. And again, I made a TikTok about like, I will never put a politician on a pedestal. Like, we're talking about politicians work for the people. They're not meant to be like a cult leader. But there was something cool right after I released that video or, publish. I was like, we want to cheer for Mamdani, but it's also like, got to hold him accountable, critique him, be like, you go to work for us. He posted an amazing video that was so transparent about the process and what it looks like and his transitional team that he was going to be hiring and how he wanted to go about it and the funding that he needed. And I was like, I've never heard this explained to me before, like ever. So I think that was just, again, I hope a precedent for the future. And I hope they set a precedent for the Democratic Party that this is the kind of leadership that we're looking for. And also setting hopefully a tone for the people who have really sought to divide us based on race or religion. If we could pull off some great stuff in the city, I think realizing that that's all been a distraction, a diversion, right? Like this country was really founded on people trying to distract us from the ruling class, the people who want to, hold power over the everyday person. And I think it'd be cool if we got to experience a little bit of what happens when you don't do that. And in conclusion, wrapping up today's If Astrology Isn't Real, I just wanted to end with, there was so much healing happening this week. The Billie Eilish, the Blue Wave, Dick Cheney, R.I. something. But then the world is healing because Jonathan Bailey was voted the sexiest man alive 2025 by People Magazine. Now, again, like I said, Pluto and Aquarius, no one had really cared about People Magazine since, I don't know, at the early aughts. I don't think it's really relevant. And I think a lot of people have been in the past, that's the sexiest man alive. But you know what? Jonathan Bailey, they got it right on this one. And Jonathan Bailey and those, as the kids call them, the slutty little glasses. Santino likes that. Has been doing something for me for a minute. I loved him in Wicked. He is just in Bridgerton. He is just everything. And, another amazing, just little astrological insight into him is he's also a Taurus. So that Taurus full moon was doing big things for the Taurus energy. And let me see here. There was something else interesting in his chart that I thought was so fun. Okay. So I think he's a Leo rising, if the time I saw on the internet was right. So I was like, what a week for Aquarius moons, but also what a week for the Leo risings of it all. And it leaves a Leo moon, which makes so much sense. But I love just, again, this indicator that the world is indeed healing. We can feel good again. What is this feeling of going on the internet and not being everything's awful? And I had told you guys at the top of the year, this was going to be a year of a lot of intensity and a lot of limitations and things that are going to feel really scary, but also of some huge strides forward, huge celebrations, huge unification moments. And I think we're just going to be prepared for more of that. So let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, your thoughts. Thank you for putting up with me and my little Santino Bambino today. And and I just encourage each and every one of you to think about what in your chart is waiting to be discovered, to be unlocked, especially as it relates to your role in this revolution that we all have a part of. Everyone here has something to weave into this moment in time. And the Pluto and Aquarius of it all reminds us that our thoughts and our consciousness in which we're bringing to the world is so important in every moment. So keep doing your thing. Keep being those cosmic bad bees with the good hearts. And Santino and I are sending you so much love, and let me know what topics you want to hear about next week. Do you love getting your Cosmic RX for the week here and want more? Make sure to sign up for our premium subscription so you can get exclusive access to bonus podcast episodes, all of my astrology info for the month ahead, and live new and full moon calls to help you manifest your dream life with an intentional international community of other cosmic baddies. Sign up through our link in show notes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to know more about Cosmic RX, head on over to thecosmicrx.com. And if you really love this show, I'd love it if you left a rating and review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. I super love hearing from you and reading your reviews. All right, you cosmic baddie, tune in next week. And until then, remember, love yourself fully, work your magic, and take no shit.